Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Siti Wanurmaya Sharina bint Abdul Rashid. My metric number is 280305. This project is focused mainly with the application of Malaysian Financial Reporting Standard (MFRS) in all listed companies in Malaysia. Therefore, we chose 5 companies in Bursa Malaysia, which is Success Transformer Corporation Berhad, Fraser and Leaf Holdings Berhad, SYF Resources Berhad, WTK Holdings Berhad, and Kumpulan Perangsang Selangor Berhad. At the end of this project, we finally can recognize the implementation of MFRS 108, MFRS 110, MFRS 116, and MFRS 136 applied by those companies. On top of that, we can identify the disclosure of those applied accounting standards in their financial performance. Besides, we also study on how key audit matters were disclosed and make a comparison between those 3 years by using financial statement analysis. Next, I would like to present my part, which is MFRS 108, Changes in Accounting Policy, Changes in Accounting Estimates and Error. Based on our discussion, for MFRS 108, the companies applied some of new accounting standard and amendment to accounting policy in years 2018, 2019, and 2020, with a various of MFRS such as MFRS 9, MFRS 16, amendments to MFRS 107, and others. It would need a different treatment to disclose the changes. Therefore, there are 3 methods to disclose it, such as transitional, retrospective, and prospective. However, there is still companies which do not have any changes in accounting policy for a certain years, while some amendments of accounting policy also had a material impact on the financial position and some are not. The most material impact for the companies is MFRS 16. We also can see that those companies consistently disclose its changes in accounting policy for each year. Therefore, this demonstrates that all companies comply to the MFRS 108 standard.
Assalamualaikum and good day to Dr. Faisal. My name is Nur Aisyah Shahira binti Zarfan, metric number 281438. My presentation is about MFRS 110 standard, which is related to events after reporting dates. So basically, events after reporting dates are any events that occur between the end of the accounting period and the date when the financial statements are authorized for issue. So under this MFRS 110 standard, there are 2 types of events, which are adjusting events and non-adjusting events. Overall, there are 2 adjusting events and 22 non-adjusting events occur for year 2018 until 2020 for all of the 5 companies that have been chosen for this project. However, in this video, I only want to focus on our group's findings on MFRS 110 disclosures. So as we all know, there are some disclosure requirements that companies need to provide under this standard. The first one is the date of authorization for issue. So based on our findings, we found that all of the 5 companies that have been chosen disclose the date of authorization for issue in their annual reports. This disclosure is crucial because it can help the users of financial statements to identify whether the events can be classified under MFRS 110 or not. If the events occur beyond the date of authorization for issue, automatically the users can know that the events cannot be classified under MFRS 110. The next requirement is that companies should update the disclosures about the conditions that existed at the end of the reporting period based on the new information that they receive after the reporting period. In other words, after the reporting period, if the companies receive new information about the conditions that exist at the reporting date, they should update the disclosures about the conditions at the reporting date, even if it does not affect the amounts recognized in the financial statements. So based on our findings, we found that all of the 5 companies disclose all adjusting events and non-adjusting events in their notes to financial statements under a specific section located almost at the end of the annual report. The last one is that companies shall disclose the nature of the events and the estimate of the financial effect or a statement that such an estimate cannot be made. So if we look again at the notes to financial statements where the companies disclose all of the events, we can see that they disclose the events in details, including the nature of the events, the description, and also for adjusting events, they also disclose the adjustment that they have made to reflect the events. So overall, we can see that all of them adhere to an MFRS 110 disclosures requirements. So that's all for MFRS 110. Now we shall move to the next accounting standard.
Assalamualaikum, I'm Nur Husna binti Muhammad Shukri. My metric number is 2805-7. We present our finding about MFRS 116 and MFRS 136 from 5 selected companies in Malaysia. Accordance with MFRS 116, following the initial recognition property, plant and equipment are measured using cost model or revaluation model to determine its carrying amount. According to the analysis, all companies has measured their property, plant and equipment at cost model, while only SYF Resources Berhad apply both subsequent measurement models including revaluation model. This could be because the cost model is less expensive, simpler, and capable of avoiding biases in the valuation of non-current assets, despite the fact that the revaluation model is more accurate. Next, we move to our finding about MFRS 136 in 5 selected companies. According to annual report, it shows that all companies comply by the MFRS 136 standards. Success Transformer Corporation Berhad and Fraser Nif Holding Berhad do have the impairment loss in financial statement for every year. It showed that impairment loss of Success Transformer Corporation Berhad keeps decreasing throughout 3 years. The amount of decline in impairment loss between 2018 and 2019, years before pandemic, is 209,922 ringgit. Meanwhile, the amount of decline between before pandemic years 2019 and during pandemic 2020 is 352,400 ringgit. It can conclude that the decline of the amount impairment loss before 2019 and during COVID-19 2020 is higher than the decline of impairment loss amount between years before COVID-19. For Fraser Nif Holding Berhad, the amount of impairment loss keep increasing throughout 3 years. The amount of increase in total of impairment loss between 2 years before the pandemic, which is in 2018 and 2019, is 214,000 ringgit, is lower than the amount of increase in impairment loss before 2019 and during COVID-19 2020, which is 219,000 ringgit. It can conclude that there is no significant difference in impairment loss disclosed between years before and during COVID-19. While Jabrutike Holding Berhad record an impairment loss only in 2 years, which is in 2019, 19,630,000 ringgit and significantly increased to 75,000 and 99,000 ringgit in 2020. Another 2 companies, which are SYF Resources Berhad and Kumpulan Perangsang Serangau Berhad, they only have 1 year recorded for impairment loss, which are 307,000 ringgit and 2,975,000 ringgit, respectively. In addition, Fraser Nif Holding Berhad is the one and only company that have record in a reversal impairment for the year.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Yasmin binti Yahidi. My metric number is 280714. So today I will present about key audit matter disclosure. First company is Success Transformer Corporation Berhad. There have 5 key audit matter in this company. Firstly, goodwill impairment. Next is revenue recognition for construction contract. These both key audit matter only have in 2018 and 2019. No information recorded in 2020. Thirdly is impairment assessment of property, plant and equipment in 2019 only founded. Then carrying value of inventory and recoverability of receivables stated only in 2020. Move on to the second company, which is Fraser and Nif Holdings Berhad. Only 2 key audit matter founded in this company, which are impairment assessment on intangible asset of goodwill and brand stated only in 2018 and 2019. Next, advertising and promotion expense and distributor incentive discount and rebates have in all 3 years 2018 until 2020. Third company is SYF Resources Berhad. There have 3 key audit matter in this company, which are inventories valuation, carrying amount of land and property development cost and revenue recognition. These 2 have all in 3 years. Lastly is carrying amount of intangible asset stated only in 2019. Fourth company is WTK Holdings Berhad. They only have two key audit methods, which are impairment assessment of goodwill in 2019 and impairment assessment of property, plant and equipment found in 2019 only. Last company, which is Kumpulan Perangsang Selangor Berhad, stated there have four key audit methods, which are goodwill impairment assessment, have all in 3 years, 2018 until 2020. Next, in 2018, has one more of key audit method, which is recoverability of investment in an associate. Then we move to the next key audit method, which is determination of fair value of identifiable asset acquired and liability assumed on business combination, which only have in 2019. Lastly is impairment of trade receivable only in financial year 2020. Apart from that, there are two common key audit methods that are identified in the sample companies for year 2018 until 2020, which related to revenue recognition and goodwill. Key audit methods are the most significant methods for auditor in the audit of the financial statement for each current period. Generally, revenue recognition and goodwill are the common significant methods for auditor because both of them involve judgment and valuation. Therefore, auditor will focus more on these two methods to ensure the judgment and valuation are reasonable.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Aisyah Matimah Rashamuddin, metric number 281528. I will present about the financial statement analysis using ratio analysis as the tool. Note that I will only focus on some key findings. First is the current ratio. The current ratio measures a company's ability to meet its short-term obligation. Based on the figure, some of the key findings is that Success Transformer Berhad current ratio was able to record a positive trend despite the pandemic, which is the red column in the chart indicating that the firm was more capable of meeting its obligation in 2020 because it has a higher proportion of short-term asset value relative to its short-term liability value. Meanwhile, SYF Resources had the lowest current ratio among the companies in 2020 at 1.79 after it dropped significantly at 13.54 in 2019. In the period of pandemic, SYF experienced the highest number of MFRS 108 accounting policies changes in accounting estimate and errors, which may lead to the drop. Next is the analysis of return on assets (ROA) that refers to the profitability ratio that measures the net income produced by total assets during a period by comparing net income to the average total asset. Here, we can observe that for Fraser and Nib Holding Berhad, the ROA remained consistent at 0.12 before and after pandemic. In contrast, SYF Resources Berhad ROA was negative over the 3-year period, with 2018 being the lowest point at negative 0.14. The company is unable to acquire or use its assets in sufficient quantities to generate a profitable return. Additionally, WTK Holdings Berhad ROA is the lowest in 2020 at negative 0.13. For return on equity (ROE), it reveals how much profit a company earns in comparison to the money a shareholder has invested. Based on the chart, Success Transformer Berhad had an increase-decrease trend, which implied that the period of pandemic has lowered the firm's efficiency in generating cash internally. On the other hand, SYF Resources Berhad had a negative ROE for 3 consecutive years, though it actually improved by 0.1 in 2020. The firm could be in reinvesting earnings into unproductive assets as the ratio was negative, but it started to bounce back during the later year. Moving on to the debt-to-asset ratio, which refers to the leverage ratio that measures the amount of total assets that are financed by creditors instead of investors. Success Transformer and Fraser and Nib Berhad shows a declining trend, which implied that the firm has good creditworthiness despite the pandemic. For SYF Resources Berhad, the debt ratio improved before pandemic by 0.3, but it falls down in 2020 as the ratio rises to 0.44 during the pandemic. For Kumpulan Perangsang Selangor Berhad, the ratio rose significantly from 0.31 to 0.54 in 2019. However, the debt ratio managed to improve during the pandemic as it did to 0.51 in 2020.